week 2 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few pitchers I would look to buy low this week and trade for. The first guy is Tristan Mckenzie of the Cleveland Indians. So Mckenzie, he came up last season, and he was pretty impressive for this Cleveland Indian team. High strikeout rate, he was eating innings, and he was pitching well. So last season, his stats, 33 innings pitched, a 2-1 record for Mckenzie, a 3.24 ERA, 0.90 whip with 2 quality starts in 42 strikeouts. So Mckenzie, like I said, he had the high strikeout rate, and he was one of the top guns in that Cleveland Indian farm system here. But so far in the season, it's been a struggle for Mckenzie. 7 2/3, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 6 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 4.70 ERA, and a 1.30 whip. So the walks are hurting Mckenzie right now. And this guy, he's pretty erratic, though. He could throw the ball and lose control quickly in games, and this is what we've seen so far in the year for him. And some fantasy owners, they're dropping him in leagues, but I'm telling owners to go out there and try to buy him on the low this week. Right now, he's owned in 70% of leagues, and the percentage has dropped 3% so far this week after his latest outing versus the White Sox. His first outing, April 5th versus Kansas City, he only went 3 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, which came out to a 2.45 ERA and a 1.64 whip. In his last ball game at the White Sox, April 12th, he went 4 innings, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 1.00 whip, and a 6.75 ERA. So right now, Mckenzie, the strikeouts, they're still there in limited innings so far on the season, but he's just not getting batters out, and he's been erratic, like I said, with 6 walks so far and only 7 2/3 pitched so far this season. But I think he'll get things going. He's got a mediocre matchup April 17th in Cincinnati, where, Cincinnati, they could put the bat on the ball and put it into the crowd, especially at their small bandbox of a ballpark. But I just feel like Mckenzie has a lot of upside and a lot of potential, and he's a pitcher I would look to buy low this week. And you definitely don't have to give up much, especially that managers have dropped him in a few percent of fantasy leagues already this week. The next guy is Chris Paddock of the San Diego Padres. So Paddock, he came onto the scene 2 seasons ago, and I thought this guy would be a Cy Young candidate pretty much every season here. But so far this year, it hasn't been another good start for him. For Paddock, 8 innings pitched, 0-1 record, 8 hits given up, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 5.63 ERA, and a 1.50 whip in 2 starts this season for Paddock. So Paddock, he starts today at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and hopefully he bounces back and has a good game here. But right now, if it's any time to go out there and buy him low, this is the time before he puts together a few good pitching outings, because he's too good not to be putting up good numbers and going deep into the games. April 4th, his first game pitched of the season, he only went 4 innings. He got the loss in that one, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 4.50 ERA, and a 1.75 whip versus Arizona. And April 10th at Texas, he only went 4 innings once again, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, 3 strikeouts, 6.75 ERA, and a 1.25 whip. So Paddock, if it's any time to get right, it would be here versus Pittsburgh. But right now, I'm trying to buy Paddock on the low either way, because I think he could have a good season this year. And this Padre team, they're going to be one of the best teams in all of baseball, in my opinion, when it's all said and done this year. And Paddock, he's going to be a big part of that team, and he's going to win ball games, in my opinion. So right now, I would go out there and buy Paddock low. The next pitcher to buy low this week, Steven Strasberg of the Washington Nationals. So Strasburg, he's been a weird fantasy pitcher over the last few seasons, and most of his career here for fantasy baseball is Strasburg. And on the season so far, it's been a struggle for him. 10 innings pitched, 0-1 record, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 7 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 6.30 ERA, and a 1.60 whip with only 1 quality start. So right now, Strasburg, he pitched last night, and it didn't go well at St. Louis for him. So he's been up and down throughout his career. One game, he could have a masterpiece of a gem, and then the next game, he gets hit like a piñata, like he did last night versus the St. Louis Cardinals, April 6th versus Atlanta. 6 innings, only 1 hit, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and no ERA, and 0.50 whip, and 1 quality start. But then yesterday versus St. Louis, he only went 4 innings, got the loss in that one. 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 home runs he gave up in that game. 5 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 15.75 ERA, and a 3.25 whip. So right there, like I said, Strasburg's a weird pitcher, and then coming off a game like he did versus St. Louis, this is the time to go out there and get him right now after giving up 3 home runs and 7 earned runs. And some owners, they might be frustrated, like me with Strasburg, that you drafted him in the 4th or 5th round or even earlier on most fantasy drafts, and he's just not that every time out there ace that's going to give you 6 or 7 innings or 1 or 2 run ball. And Strasburg, over the seasons, we've seen games like this where he gets bombed. But right now, I would definitely go out there and try to trade for him. I think Washington, they're going to be a pretty decent team this year so far, even though they're off to the slow start. But they're still just getting guys back from the COVID list and stuff. And also, they missed the first 4 games of the season. So I think Strasburg, he'll bounce back. He'll get things together. And his next start's April 18th versus Arizona. So right now, if you could get him on the low, this would be the week to get it. The next pitcher is Marco Gonzalez out of Mariners. So Marcos Gonzalez, we've seen some good seasons out of him. And this year, we know Seattle's not going to be a good team. But Marcos Gonzalez, he's got bombed pretty bad so far to begin the season here. He's pitching today, Gonzalez. He's been dropped in 8% of fantasy leagues, and he's owned in 63% of leagues. So right now, you could even go out there and pick him up if you really want to, if he's out there in your leagues. He's pitching today versus Baltimore in a doubleheader, and his first 2 starts didn't go as planned, obviously, on the season. 10 in the 3rd inning for Gonzalez. 17 hits, 12 earned runs, 5 walks, 5 home runs given up, 8 strikeouts, a 10.54 ERA, and a 2.13 whip. So Gonzalez, it's been a train wreck the first 2 starts where he really got hit hard. And today, if he can't get the job done versus Baltimore, maybe some owners will drop him and you just get him on the cheap on the waiver wire. But even in a trade this week, you could give up maybe a closer or a guy who's your bench hitter or whatever for him, because he hasn't done much. April 1st versus San Francisco, 6 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 home runs he gave up, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 7.50 ERA, and a 1.83 whip. And then his next outing at Minnesota on April 8th, 4th and a 3rd innings. Got the loss in that one. 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. That came out to a 14.54 ERA and a 2.54 whip. So Gonzalez, he's been getting hit hard, no doubt about it. But I think this guy, he could turn it back a little to what he did a couple seasons ago and even last season, where he was solid, 7-2 with a 3.10 ERA and 6 quality starts. So I don't think Gonzalez fell off that much. And I think he just came out for the first 2 games of the season and got hit hard. But today he could right the ship versus Baltimore. And if he's available in your league, pick him up. And if he's on the trade block, not for much, you trade for him. And the 5th and final pitcher I would look to buy low this week's Dallas Keiko of the Chicago White Sox. So a lot of White Sox on these buy low lists this week, with Abreu obviously and Grandal on the hitters, and now Keiko is the pitcher. So Dallas Keiko on the season, it's been a struggle so far. 14 innings pitched, 13 hits, 10 earned runs, 7 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 6.43 ERA, and a 1.43 whip. So Keiko, he's just got to get his stuff together. And last season, he was amazing, 6-2 with a 2 ERA, but that was a shortened season, obviously. But right now, in his first 3 starts, it's just been rough for him. And he's had pretty decent matchups on paper with Keiko, but he couldn't get the job done. And he's already been dropped in 7% of fantasy leagues so far this week, in 71% of fantasy leagues, and available in 29%. So April 2nd versus the Angels, 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, a home run, 4 strikeouts, so a 9 ERA and a 2 whip. April 7th at Seattle, 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 5.40 ERA and a 1.40 whip. And April 12th versus Cleveland, 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, a homer, giving up 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 5.40 ERA, and a 1 whip. So Keiko, the walks have been hurting him. He's given up so far in the season 2 home runs, which isn't too bad in 3 starts. But the good thing about it, he hasn't been charged with a loss yet in the early going of the season, even though he's only had some bad outings or mediocre outings. And his next start's April 17th at the Boston Red Sox, a team that's been hitting the baseball pretty well as of late. But right now, if I could get Keiko on the cheap, I definitely would go out there and do it, because I think Keiko could turn things around. I don't think last season was a fluke. Maybe the ERA was too low at 2, but he could be a guy in the 3 ERA range to a 3.5 and get you double-digit wins this season. So right now, if you could get Keiko on the low, this would be the time to do it. So that's a few pitches I would look to buy low and trade for here in week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.